There are 10 million pianos sitting in American homes right now that almost nobody plays. They weigh hundreds of pounds. They cost hundreds of dollars a year to maintain. They're nearly impossible to give away, and yet families refuse to get rid of them. There's probably one within 100 feet of you right now, dark wood, standing against a wall, holding framed photographs like a shrine that used to sing. This is the story of how an instrument conquered an entire nation, became the most important object in the American home, and then slowly, quietly, became the most expensive piece of furniture nobody touches. And it begins with a secret: the piano was never really about music. To understand the unplayed piano, we have to go back to a time before television, before radio, before the phonograph, before the telephone. In the 1800s there was no recorded sound of any kind. Amusement was confined to the short hours between supper and bedtime, when the kerosene lamps were lighted, and the daughter of the house played the pump organ or the piano. That was it. That was entertainment. For 100 years, the piano was America's radio, phonograph, and television set all rolled into one. But the piano was never just about music. It was about something far more powerful: status. As the Industrial Revolution transformed the American economy, a new middle class emerged, and they were desperate to prove they belonged. They needed visible markers of refinement and respectability. And nothing said we have arrived quite like a piano in the parlor. The cultural historian Timothy D. Taylor called it the primary marker of middle-class cultural capital, the symbol of perfect domesticity and family harmony. In 1867, the historian James Parton declared that the piano was only less important to the American home than the kitchen stove. Think about that. Not the bed. Not the dining table. The piano. Because the piano wasn't furniture. It was a social tool. An education system. And more than anything, a machine for making daughters marriageable. In the Victorian era, upper-class girls were not expected to receive a formal education. They were expected to get married. So they were trained in accomplishments, singing, flower arranging, and piano. A young woman could be judged, publicly, precisely, by her proficiency at the keys before a genteel audience. Her playing was a direct reflection of her family's wealth, her discipline, her suitability as a wife. If your daughter could play Chopin, you were somebody. If she couldn't, questions were asked. And yet, quietly, subtly, the piano was also a tool of liberation. Scholars note it was both a symbol of the era's rigid ideology and a dangerous object that let Victorian women slip past its boundaries, into the forbidden worlds of art and emotion. Music was one of the few creative outlets a woman was permitted. The piano gave her a language beyond words. It was a cage and a key at the same time. So families bought pianos. They bought them by the hundreds of thousands. Between 1890 and 1900, the number of pianos in American homes grew more than 5 times as fast as the population. By the turn of the century, there were 1 million pianos in the country, 171,000 sold in the year 1900 alone. And then the player piano arrived, and everything went to another level. In the 1890s, an inventor named Edwin S. Vody built the first practical pneumatic piano player, the pianola, a machine that could play the piano automatically using perforated paper rolls. Within a few years the mechanism moved inside the piano itself. No years of training. No talent required. Just pump the pedals, and the keys moved on their own, like a ghost sitting at the bench. It was an admission, written in machinery, of the secret everyone already knew: families wanted the piano more than they wanted to play the piano. Player pianos were a sensation. The rolls had lyrics printed on them so families could gather around and sing along, the world's first karaoke machine, disguised as furniture. By 1919, player pianos outsold conventional pianos. At the peak, more than half of all pianos made in America contained a player unit. George Bernard Shaw owned 2. H.G. Wells had 1. And when the explorer Robert Peary sailed for the North Pole, his expedition ship carried a custom-built pianola, with the top octave removed so it could fit in the captain's quarters. The North Pole, you couldn't even explore the Arctic without one. The numbers from this golden age are staggering. In 1909, the all-time peak, Americans bought 364,545 pianos, 4 times the number of automobiles manufactured that year, in a country of just 90 million people, a quarter of today's population. And demand stayed enormous for years. As late as 1925, over 306,000 pianos were sold. By some estimates, half of American homes had a piano or player piano, the most expensive household item a family could buy before the era of mass-produced automobiles. How did they afford it? Credit. $15 down and $12 a month for 3 years, $445 in total. For comparison, a refrigerator cost $87. Families were paying 5 refrigerators for an instrument. The piano wasn't a product anymore. It was a national religion of respectability. It had 6 years left to live. The 1920s brought the radio. For the first time in history, music could enter the home without anyone lifting a finger. No practice. No lessons. No tuning. Just turn the dial. The math was devastating. A piano, $445 over 3 years. A record player, $43.50. A tenth of the price. Between 1914 and 1925, the number of piano companies declined by 44%. Then October 1929. The stock market crashed, and the piano, the ultimate symbol of disposable wealth, was the first thing families stopped buying. Sales fell to 131,000 that year. By 1932, the pit of the Depression, Americans bought just 27,000 pianos. In 1927, New York had 53 piano companies employing 6,751 workers. By 1935, 14 firms, 1,443 craftsmen. The player piano was wiped out almost overnight. Then came World War II, and the piano industry didn't just decline, it was ordered to stop. The government restricted iron, copper, and brass, and civilian piano production essentially ceased. Factories converted to defense manufacturing. Baldwin built aircraft parts, Steinway built wings and tails for troop transport gliders, and coffins. But the war effort made one exception, and it's the strangest chapter in piano history. The government asked Steinway to build heavy-duty military pianos, and the company produced around 2,500 olive-drab Victory verticals for the armed forces, tropicalized against insects, sealed with water-resistant glue, 1/10 the metal of a normal piano, with handles so 4 soldiers could carry one. They were engineered to survive being dropped by parachute, and in 1942, the first one was delivered exactly that way, crated with tuning tools and sheet music. That might be the most extraordinary sentence in the history of musical instruments, a piano. Dropped. By parachute. After the war, the piano never regained its throne. Television planted itself in the living room in the 1950s, right where the piano used to stand. Electronic keyboards arrived in the 70s and 80s. Each new technology made the piano a little less necessary, a little more like furniture. But here's the crucial thing, the thing this whole story turns on. The industry collapsed. The lessons stopped. The playing faded. The piano stayed. If nobody's buying pianos and fewer people are learning to play, why are 10 million of them still sitting in American homes? Because the unplayed piano is a perfect trap, built from 5 locks. Lock 1, they were built to last forever, finest hardwoods, cast iron frames, designed to survive generations. With no major innovation in the acoustic piano since the early 20th century, a piano from 1910 works essentially the same as one built last year. The piano your great-grandmother bought outlived her, and is fully prepared to outlive you. Lock 2, they cannot be moved, an upright weighs 300 to 500 pounds. A baby grand, 500 to 600. A concert grand can exceed 1,200. Moving one takes professionals, equipment, and a painful bill, so when homes change hands, the piano often simply stays. It stops belonging to the family. It belongs to the house. Lock 3, Sentiment. It's the piano your mother learned on. The one your grandmother played on Christmas mornings. Selling the sofa is redecorating. Selling the piano feels like betrayal. Lock 4, They became worthless, the cruelest twist. Go on Facebook Marketplace right now, in any American city, and you'll find dozens of free pianos, Kimballs, Wurlitzers, Chickerings, Spinets, Uprights, even Grands. Free to anyone willing to pay the movers. Many find no takers. Owners whose parents paid thousands now pay hundreds, $200 to $500 for hauling, just to make the piano go away. Lock 5, You can't even throw them away. Landfills often reject pianos, too large, too complex, cast iron fused into hardwood. Which is how we got one of the strangest landscapes of modern life, the piano graveyard. Behind piano dealers sit the carcasses of trade-ins too worn to repair and sell, cast out of their warm, dry homes forever, gently decaying in the rain. In Minnesota alone, hundreds of unwanted pianos meet this fate every year. In 2005, the Australian artist Ross Bollitter took the idea to its logical extreme, creating the ruined piano sanctuary in Western Australia, around 40 pianos left to decay in dams, groves, and fields. Part art installation, part memorial, still occasionally played by the wind. Even Billy Joel, the piano man himself, spotted a piano abandoned on a Long Island sidewalk and had to pull over and play it. It would be a shame, he said, to throw it away. But they are being thrown away. By the thousands. Meanwhile, keeping one costs real money. Tuning averages $162, twice a year, $300 annually for an instrument nobody touches. And a piano neglected for years drifts so far out of tune that bringing it back costs far more. Too well built to die. Too heavy to move. Too beloved to sell. Too worthless to buy. Too big to throw away. The unplayed piano isn't a decorating choice. It's a checkmate. Today the numbers read like an obituary. In 1925, over 306,000 acoustic pianos were sold in America. In 2024, 17,294. A 94% decline. Digital pianos now outsell acoustic ones 10 to 1, 188,000 to fewer than 18,000. Who still buys acoustic? Professional musicians, concert halls, music schools. That's essentially it. Globally, it's worse. Pearl River, the world's largest piano maker, reported a revenue collapse of roughly two-thirds between 2021 and 2024, as China's piano market imploded. By one estimate, nearly half of China's piano factories closed in a single year. Piano technician Hannah Beckett summed up the mood in the industry. This is a bummer time for the piano industry, a perfect storm of geopolitical events, economic status, general trends in the culture. And the pipeline is drying up. Music lesson participation among children fell steadily between 2008 and 2018, squeezed out by screens. Is this the death of the piano? Not everyone thinks so. Technicians and store owners argue that a generation exhausted by screens will rediscover acoustic instruments, the weight, the hammers, the keys that push back against your fingers. At CES in January 2026, hybrid pianos, part acoustic, part digital, app-connected, generated genuine buzz. The piano may survive by becoming the very technology that nearly destroyed it. But the old pianos, the heavy, beautiful, sentimental, untuned, unplayed ones, they're not going anywhere. They can't. They sit in living rooms and basements across America, monuments to a vanished era, when music was something you made yourself, when culture was something you displayed in your parlor, when a young woman's worth could be measured in scales and arpeggios. 10 million pianos. 10 million silent instruments. 10 million families who can't bring themselves to let go of something that once defined what it meant to be respectable. The piano conquered the American home. And now, a century later, it refuses to leave.